It's a privilege to be with all of you all here at this amazing place and talk about our great God and enjoying His creation. And I'm not making a statement with my family here that they're wild and woolly or anything like that. We had a visiting speaker some time ago come to our church, and he talked about his family and talked about his children, and I thought, well, that was interesting, and that was nice. Whenever I give a talk, I should do that, so that's why they're up here. And so, just a little bit about us. My wife, has an on switch. My wife, Regina, and I live in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania. We go to the Lock Haven Mennonite Church. And I was at Teachers Week just a couple weeks ago, and someone came up to me and he said, so how do you describe yourself? I'm like, I'm a treasure hunter. That's what I do. Yeah, I hunt for gold and silver, and I have my metal detector in my pocket, but I hunt for books mostly. I'm a book hunter. I don't read, but I like books, and I sell books. So I like to find things, and my wife likes to get rid of them, so it works pretty good.
Same here.
Yes. Great. Yeah, so we sell a lot of what we find online, and then if it doesn't sell, she likes to throw it away. So it works very good. So just a little bit about our family. Our oldest, Daisy, is married to Titus Coons. They live in the Mesopotamia, Middlefield, Ohio area. Titus does custom CAD design, in case you need something designed. And then they have Rowan and George. Yes, it's George. Now, George likes to photobomb pictures. And so this was last summer at Kenny Byler's wedding, and that's like all of our family pictures that we took, every one of them was, this is obviously not the worst one. It's great, right? Watch for George. And then they have Baird and Toby. Our second oldest is Julie. She's married to Jared Miller. They live in Lock Haven and go to our church, Lock Haven Mennonite. And they have Bowen and Gamaliel, and Hiram was added to the family since this picture. And Jared works with a door and window installation. He specs the jobs out. He does all kinds of stuff with windows and doors, quality windows and doors. And then we have Carlin, and he's married to Kayleen. And that's a connection a lot of you all have. Ken and Annette Martin's Kayleen. So they're twins, Eleanor and Eva, or is it Eva and Eleanor? I'm not sure which there, but they're just great. And Carlin is the IT guy at Faith Builders, and that's where they live and go to church at one of those local churches there. And then we have Wesley and his wife Kalia. And Wesley and Kalia live in our town and go to our church. And he and Kalia make kombucha and kraut, so fermented things, and kimchi, is it, or something? They make some really good stuff. I would have never thought he would turn into a foodie, but he's a foodie, and so is his wife, and they make really good stuff. And they have a Kezia, who is now just a little over one, running around and talking, and it's great. And our youngest is Nevin. He's at home when he's home. He goes to our church, and He works at a Sower's Harvest Cafe, and he also works for Extend Cafes, which is like, I describe it as like a networking group to encourage and help start and help flourish kingdom-focused cafes. So he's all into coffee and making good food in cafes. So there's the family the Lord has blessed us with, and let's dive right into enjoying nature.
Dan, can you put your mic up a little bit? You're just a touch on the quiet side.
I'm a touch on the quiet side. Okay, so I have trifocals on and I cannot see.
You're not on the quiet side, he's just on the deaf side.
That might be true. It's true.
Let's go up here, maybe. Are you picking up Tom all right, you think, with yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, how's that?
There you go.
Turn up the reverb and the volume if that doesn't help. What is that? Anyone know what that is? Anyone want to take a guess what that is?
Algae.
No? You're warm. Maybe. Yeah.
Somebody back here said something.
I'll leave.
Okay. Yes. It is a cross-section of a water lily leaf. And it is those octopus-looking things are designed by God to help give a water lily leaf that toughness and structure, and then all those holes are to help it float on the water. And I chose to talk about water lilies and other interesting things in the water lily surrounding because we're right beside a lake. And I assume that here in Minnesota, you all have a lot more lakes than we do. And I want to talk today about how God is great. He's, as you said, strong enough and smart enough and everything enough to make everything around us. And our world tells us, no, he's not. It all happened by chance. Their artificial intelligence made everything. And Carlin, he's an IT guy. Well, when he was a boy, he liked to make robots. And so he made a sumo robot for a competition, him and his buddy, and they called it Marson. So they set these two competing robots down in this circle, and it had to know its surroundings, and the idea was to push the other robot out. And they won the competition. I don't know if they were first, but they were up there, at least in the finals, and won something or other. And if you think about it, if that robot would have the choice, like we have a choice to be like, wow, Carlin, thanks for making me so I can win the competition, or I'm doing my own thing. You have nothing to do with it. That's what I want to talk about today, how God is great and how we can enjoy nature, and in doing so, we're giving glory to our Maker. So tomorrow I also want to talk about how God is great, and then the next two times how God is good, and the last talk here, why we thank Him for our food. Because how many of y'all prayed that prayer many times, maybe with your children? That is a very profound prayer, and we want to look at God is great from a water lily. So, here is a close-up of the inside of a water lily. All those holes, as I said, were to help it float, to capture air, to to hold air. All those thorn, star, octopus-looking things are giving the lily leaf that structure. They're called astrosclerids, if you want to know the term. And Dave, you might not finish sentences. I'll just tell you right now, I hated English in school, didn't I, Joyce? And I'm self-taught because I hated school. I didn't learn anything. Well, maybe I did. And so when I read, like, I'm reading all these awesome words. I mean, I can read everything the scientist, but I surely can't pronounce it right. So I appreciate feedback because I don't know what I'm pronouncing wrong, right? And I'll just give you an example quick before we get started. So you go to a state park, they have these signs there, you know, with the maps and the cool things about the park, and you are here. It's a kiosk, right? What are you laughing at? No, see, I got some feedback from my wife, and I appreciate it. It's called a kiosk. Now I know how to say it right. So I appreciate the feedback if I said those are astrosclerids. Maybe it's some other way. But you'll get the idea as we go along. Here's the water lily stem. It's also engineered to help circulate air in the water lily and to enable the water lily to live in its aquatic environment. Now, the benefit of this is roots need oxygen, and the oxygen goes into the young leaves, and since old leaves are leaky, it circulates through all those hollow areas, down through the roots to oxygenate the roots, and then out the old leaves. There's this circulation going on. And here is a leaf peel of a water lily leaf, and these are the stomata. So these are the openings that allow gas exchange. And this is on the upper surface of the leaf. If you do a leaf peel on an oak leaf or maple leaf here, you want to do it on the underside because that's where the gas exchange mainly happens in normal leaves. And if you do a leaf peel, it doesn't work very good because of this waxy surface on a water lily leaf, but at least I got a little section here where you can see all those little stomata. And here is one in the microscope. You can see all the openings. They are designed to open and close as necessary to allow or disallow gas exchange. And as I said, we have this oxygen air exchange. The oxygen is going into the top of the leaf and down the stems and into the roots. And this allows the plants to flourish in this environment. And you'll notice all that slimy stuff there. That would be called periphyton. There's a whole community. It's a zoo. And we'll look a little bit at that, and afterwards, like if you're interested and you want to stay and see some of that stuff live, we'll stay a little bit after the presentation and take a look at some of this stuff live. And you can also look into the inside of a water lily leaf here if you would like to do that.
So Dana, how does it grow from the bottom up to the surface without air to begin with in the spring?
Right. Good question. I don't know.
I don't either.
And just, if any of you are teachers, that's something that I suggest you learn how to say, because I've gone up to PhD. I was a PhD botanist, horticulturalist, and entomologist, and I showed him a leaf with some hairy stuff on the bottom. I said, "Do you know what this is?" He said, "No, I don't." I said, "Well, this is a Caridomacia." He says, "Well, that's not how you pronounce it." But he knew what it was just from the word. And he didn't know. And I'm like, if a PhD guy doesn't know, I can say that too. So I don't know. Good question. Let's find out. Here's a close-up of the cross-section of a water lily leaf. And I just wanted to point out this layer right here, this green layer, that's the palisade layer of a leaf. That's where a lot of the photosynthesis happens.
Is that the top of the leaf?
Yes, this is the top. And at the top there, the cells are closely aligned and vertical. And I'm going to show you here in the microscope. You can see the palisade layer, and you can see these scleriids, or the astroscleriids, astra because I guess they look like stars. And the spongy layer, most leaves are designed kind of like this, although this is an exaggerated spongy layer because it's designed to float on the water. And so even closer with the microscope, we can see these palisade layers of the cells and these green things which are reflecting, because of the chlorophyll that's in them, it's reflecting the green light that we can see. And these are the chloroplasts. All around on the cells, and they can move around depending on whether they want to do a lot of photosynthesis or they're trying to hide from the sun because there's too much sun. So they can kind of move around in those cells. And the chloroplasts here, this is a cutaway diagram showing kind of what they're made of. And this is where photosynthesis happens. And one of the steps in photosynthesis that we're going to look at, there's two cascades of events that happen that are doing this photosynthesis. Right here, you'll see a membrane, and you'll see this hydrogen pump. Now, where does the hydrogen come from? H2O, right? The hydrogen. The water molecules get split apart, and then there's these pumps that pump the hydrogen across the membrane. So there's a gradient. You can see there's more of them here. So view as a gradient as kind of some of us don't like people, and this is too many people, and get me out of here, right? Kind of thing. Well, that's what's happening here. And then there's these little electric motors right here. It is electric motor, okay? It's not made up. It's for real. You see it has a rotor, has a shaft, has a stator. It has a job to do, physically manufacturing ATP. This is called ATP synthase, which is actually manufacturing cell storage, the energy. ATP is a way of storing energy in cells. And almost every living thing uses this. You are powered by these little electric motors. I hope you like electricity. Here is, Google it on YouTube if you want to see them happen, if you want to see them, work, or these diagrams of them working. But you can see, here's a bottom view looking up, and you can see that the axle is misshapen. It's not perfectly round. And so those moving parts are physically manufacturing the ATP from this ADP and this P1 stuff. It's really fascinating. From bacteria to elephants, and plants included, use this little electric motor. And it's a 7,800 RPM motor that powers everything you do. And our great God designed that and put that in every living thing. And your textbooks and your people and your scientists and your PhD guys will say, nah, God's not big enough. He's not smart enough. He couldn't have made that. It happened by chance. Didn't he? Didn't it happen that way? No. You can't have something dead decide to make an electric motor and make it and then come alive. You can't have it evolve if you don't have every part, even the motor mounts. Have you ever tried to flip a switch on a big motor and it didn't have a motor mount? Yeah, the brushes went out. It's not going to work. Just on and on. You got to have the power source. You got to have the battery, the gradient. You know, everything has to be there or it won't work. So when we look at the water lilies, we can be like the psalmist and we can say, oh, come, let us sing unto the Lord. Let's make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Let us come into his presence with thanksgiving. Let us make a joyful noise to him with songs of praise. For the Lord, he's a great God. In his hands are the depths of the earth, the water, the ocean. The heights of the mountains are his also. The sea is his. He made it. His hands formed the dry land. So we don't have lakes around our area like you all probably do. So when we were in a lake in Ohio, I was with the grandkids, and let me just tell you a story about how we Harry Brenneman, I learned that from him, right? And maybe you. Let me tell you a story about one day I took them to a lake and we were walking on the boardwalk. And you know how you said, Dave, that grandparents have this tremendous influence on their grandchildren. There, that was me laying on a dock just like Rowan, my grandson, looking down in the water at the water lilies. So I saw a hole in the leaf. Right there. That very hole. I missed this one. And being a curious kind of guy, I lifted that leaf up and look, there was a leaf shelter at the leaf and stem intersection. A leaf shelter, like caterpillars make leaf shelters, other insects make leaf shelters to hide from their enemies. Like birds, like... What does a caterpillar under the water have to hide from? Fish, yes. Or crayfish, or, well, we'll see. There's other things they have to hide from too. So I was curious what that was, and looked at it a little closer. I pulled it off, and there was a hole with a caterpillar in it in the stem. And there's the very caterpillar. And because I know that everything has a story, everything has its friends, it has its enemies, everything interacts with everything else. And so if you start pursuing that story, you can enjoy God's creation more. And so away we went trying to research it. I couldn't find exactly something that would match. There's several kinds of these species, and I'm like, oh boy, you know, well, I went to another lake and sat down on this stump to look down in the water, and sure enough, there was a lily leaf with a hole in it. So I flipped it over, and there was no leaf shelter underneath it, no hole in the stem. So I laid it down, again, very disappointedly, and just like that, a wasp landed on it. And it's a parasitic wasp. It's hunting. Have you ever seen them? You know, their antennae are going crazy. Their wings are flitting like this, and it's hunting. It was hunting for something. I'm like, what is it hunting for? I wonder if more of this happens on water lily leaves. I sat there for like 10 minutes, and I saw half a dozen other wasps landing on the water lily leaves. So when I got home, got out my Bible on aquatic life, and there's a whole chapter on these aquatic Hymenoptera, and it says here in the introduction, wasps that, you know, in the narrowest sense, wasps that enter the water as adults to contact their aquatic hosts, and in the broadest sense, they're parasitoids, which means they kill their hosts, the aquatic host, but they might not necessarily parasitize the aquatic stage of that host. And so I learned that around our area there's these wasps that are considered aquatic Hymenoptera that are hunting. Fishing spiders. Y'all have fishing spiders around here? Maybe, maybe not. They're epic, huge. I hate spiders. I don't like spiders, but anyway, I had to go see this, right? Because it was the easiest thing. I mean, rather than swimming around and snorkeling in the water, you know, to see these aquatic Hymenoptera parasitizing their hosts, I might be able to see this. So I went to a lake where I knew there were lots of wolf spiders, and sure enough, I got to see the wasps patrolling around, hunting for fishing spiders, and one even took a break close enough I could poke my camera in its face and take a picture of it. But I didn't get to see, you know, the battle happen, which I was hoping to see. But I did get to look at a fishing spider right in the eyes, and I'm like, that is cool. Like, if I look at it close enough, I'm like, I'm not creeped out. I'm like, that is cool. God made that thing. He looks kind of like a Celtic drummer, you know, like. Do you know what those things do right there? I don't. Does anyone know? I mean, there's probably a word for them too. But anyway, they have a function. And they love to sit on the lily pads. You know, are they looking down at their fishing spiders? They have prey that's in the water. Like, what's it looking for? Or can it sense the minnows down there and know when to, like, dive down in the water and catch the minnow? And like, I'd love to see that. Has anyone ever seen it? Yeah, it has to be awesome. But it can walk on the water, and yet it can dive into it to catch its prey. It's something amazing that's associated with these lily pads, and we have a great God to design all that.
Question, Dan. Are those
Yes.
like a lot of eyeballs, or is it?
Yes, there's a number of them there. Yep. The other day I waded out into a pond to take a picture of this lily pad, and I saw a hole in the leaf. And then I noticed there's a leaf shelter on the top, and it was blowing bubbles. I'm like, what on earth? So I pulled it off, and there was the caterpillar blowing bubbles, and you can see the little tip of the caterpillar. It was in the stem. I'm like, I still don't know what that caterpillar was way back, the first hole, but I might be closer now, because I took that caterpillar home, and then I found out it was very, very shy. Like, you can go up to some caterpillars and you can do, I don't know what, and nothing phases them. This guy, you should have seen me. I had to take that picture, I had to sneak up there. I mean, to tell you what, I eased my camera up. Now, the table was a little shaky, it wasn't solid. And if I just bumped that table a little bit, he was gone. I'd snap a picture, he was gone, and I have to wait till he was brave. It was a very timid caterpillar, but I got a picture of him. You'll notice that it's eating the top of the leaf here, so that's fascinating to me, because I thought in stem it was a stem borer, but it obviously feeds on the leaf, and its hole in the leaf or in the stem is where it hides. And the bubbles, and what's going on with the bubbles it's blowing? You know what happens in a water lily leaf, remember? The oxygen goes, the air goes in and down through. So it's stealing that flow of oxygen to the roots. And you can actually see that there's bubbles around. And you can see the astrosclerids in here and its feeding sign. And all that shiny spots there, all those bubbles that are leaking out and helping, I don't know, starve the leaf and keep the lily pads just a little bit less. Like, in God's perfect world, did this kind of thing happen? I have no idea. I mean, God is so big, so maybe he designed alternative lifestyles for those parasitic wasps and caterpillars that steal the oxygen from water lily roots. In the meantime, you know, running around looking for all the answers to my question, what kind of caterpillar this is and what its story is, I got to see, you know, other interesting interactions in the community, like the cow lilies and the bees that visit them and their beautiful flowers and all their pollen they produce, and water lily leaves full of leaf mines, caterpillar, insect, cat larvae that feed in the leaves, and dragonfly nymphs use them to, emerge from the water and hatch out as a dragonfly, and epic dragonflies, everywhere, right? And beautiful colors on dragonflies. Blue, for instance, in nature is almost always structural. So the blue color that you see on this this dragonfly isn't like we think of colors like my black pants here are. It's a dye. It's a pigment, right? It's absorbing all the light. The blue of my shirt here has pigments in it that absorb all the light waves except the blue light waves. It's reflecting that back for you to see. In nature, blue is structural. So it's the shape of something in the dragonfly that reflects the light waves, not a pigment that does it. And I did a little research on that. I hadn't got real far, and I didn't even put a dragonfly under my microscope yet, so I don't know what these look like, but they're microspherules, like spheres that interact with the light waves and also with pigments, it sounds like, that produce that blue color. More dragonflies, more dragonflies. Water lily leaf beetle, and this is in its offspring. Those are aphids. The water lily leaf aphid, busy, sucking plant juices. Beautiful flowers. Lots of bees and bumblebees and flies enjoying the pollen and the paradise of a water lily leaf flower. And I just gave you just a little bit of what community is around the water lily, and I just want to point out a couple verses here how the Lord, the psalmist said, has manifold works. O Lord, how manifold are your works. In wisdom you've made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. It's full. See, we saw how full it was, and we're going to see some more. Then he goes on. Think about this, if this was David or one of the guys, how he knew this. Here is the sea, great and wide, which teems with creatures innumerable, living things both small and great. He must have done a lot of poking around and exploring and asking questions to know there's innumerable creatures in the water that are small and great. So, first when we came here, I went down to the pond and I saw the little insect bug nets, saw it all used and wet. And yes, there's people that like to explore the water, and like David or the psalmist that wrote this, explore God's creation and hopefully give him glory for creating these kinds of things, just like we like when we make a robot called Marson and it wins, and people can say, yeah, way to go for designing something that does these great things. So let's take a look a little bit at what of those innumerable creeping things are that are in the aquatic environment. So there on the stem is that paraphyte in this zoo. So I pulled a little bit of that off and popped it in the microscope here. And these are dead algae strands. You can see that it's different cells there. And then here is like colonized algae. This is a diatom. Here's some stalked diatoms. So diatoms are these little they live in little yes.
What's the magnification there?
I don't know. I should put it on. I have from 100 to 1,000. I'm guessing that's probably 200x. 20 on here, 10 up diatoms, like I took a class at Susquehanna University many years ago, and I still remember seeing those diatoms in the microscope. I don't know what kind of microscope they have, but that was like, I'll never be the same. But anyway, this is a SEM, scanning electron microscope view of diatoms. You can see they're like little pill bottles, or pill containers that fit together. They're they call valves. And they're made of silica, so I call them glass. And they have all these little holes in them and patterns, which serve a function not only for beauty's sake, but for the life of a diatom. And these can move around. These live here. Diatoms, by the way, are fossil diatoms is why we have electricity. No. Well, maybe, if you have natural gas. But the gas you use to come here, fuel, crude oil, comes from diatoms, fossil diatoms. Here's marine diatoms. They're much, the ones in freshwater look a little bit like these little boat thingies, but the ones in the ocean, marine, have a lot more variety and designs and patterns, and they're quite beautiful. In fact, the Victorian people used to arrange them in these, in a microscope slide. You could look at a Victorian microscope slide and see all these beautiful designs, and they're put together with diatoms, and then those colors are from the way their light's interacting with all those holes in the glass and the silica, and you have to use like a polarizing microscope to see those interesting different colors. But it's like a zoo down there. Now, I don't know what this thing is. It might be a dead amoeba. But there are amoebas that build little shells like this, shelled amoebas. Like here is one. It literally, you think of an amoeba, right? You kind of know what an amoeba is. Well, think about this. That little squishy little like balloon thingy that squeezes its legs out to move around, or pseudopods. It picked up microscopic grains of sand, and it decided, yes, this works. No, this doesn't work. And it put its house together to live in. And it even decorates it. And that hairy, slimy stuff all over the stem of the water lily, even on a single strand of algae, it gets colonized. It's got its whole zoo around it. All this different kind of microscopic life is living there. Like, take a look at this here. Here's, a little colony of some kind of creature, and here's another one. This is probably a small one of these. This actually could be I'm bad with names. Anyway, don't worry about it. There's really cool stuff going on in here. Like, here's one, a vorticella. It's like this little cup-shaped thing with a spirally, springy stem. It has cilia around here. This is what this is, this little whitish layer, and then the dark. That is the cilia spinning. And you can see it's making a current. You can see the circle of all the particles in the water here, and then here is like a directional one. And here's a video of it, and just in a little bit you'll see I brighten up the aperture, open the aperture of the microscope a little bit, and you'll be able to see that current going on right there. It's stirring up the water and taking in those particles to bacteria and little whatever. And then here are two of them, and this is a little video just to show you they're very interesting. Like this one here, in about 5, 4, watch it, 3, ooh, something scared it. It can spring back and then back out to feed and make that current and vacuum up all the particles that are in the water. And that's a whole other zoo that we don't have time to look at, or that my 1000X isn't capable of seeing.
So are these things considered plants or bacteria?
They are protozoa, microorganisms, just little, they're the simple-celled creatures that live in the water. Yeah. I don't know that we can see any bacteria in here. That's probably what some of these specks are. At this magnification, I don't think we'll see any bacteria. Here's dark field to see kind of that same, the old dead algae cells with no chlorophyll in them, and some of these shell things that they either built their shells from accreted particles, or maybe some of them manufacture little, like chitin, like fingernail particles that they can assemble their own shells to live in, and just a whole zoo. A nice long skinny diatom there. And that's what happens when you look at a hole in the leaf in God's full creation and said, what is that? And where that takes you. And so I hope as you go throughout your days and your children are curious about things, or your grandchildren, and for yourself, you can look at God's creation and remember that our world is full of innumerable creeping things, both small and great. And it's full. And He made them all in wisdom, contrary to what our world says, that there's no way He was able to do something like that. And yes, God is great. He's great enough to have made that world for us to enjoy, and ultimately to say, thanks God, you are great. You just like, how did you think of all that stuff? Like that is amazing. Thank you for your attention. I have my microscope up here, like I said. I have some water lily leaves. If some of you are interested in seeing it a little hands-on and closer up, you're welcome to stay after and take a look. And I like to take nature walks. And so I would offer to take some of y'all on a nature walk at 4 o'clock, weather permitting. That wasn't announced this morning when we, yeah. Great. Yeah, so we'll do a sign-up sheet somewhere about that. That way, if there's lots of interest in going on a nature walk, we can gate it so that, you know, a unwieldy amount of 40 people or something like I had at Teachers Week doesn't happen, you know. And we can go on a nature walk around here and see some more of God's amazing creation, and maybe do it on other days as well if there's enough interest to spread it out. I guess I'll turn it over to you.